Excuse me, you're in the wrong seat. Move, now! Flight attendant Janet Morrison's sharp command sliced through American Airlines Flight 447. She towered over the black businessman, arms crossed, blocking his view with deliberate intimidation. Damon Washington glanced up from his merger documents, meeting her hostile stare. Behind Janet, a white passenger tapped his foot impatiently, rolling his eyes at the inconvenience. "This is my assigned seat, ma'am," Damon said calmly, showing his boarding pass. Janet snatched it without looking. "Anyone can print fake tickets. This gentleman paid full price for first class." She jerked her thumb toward the white passenger. "You need to gather your things and move to the back where you belong." The cabin temperature seemed to drop. Passengers froze. A young woman in 2B quietly started recording. "Have you ever been treated like you don't belong somewhere you've earned the right to be?" The overhead announcement crackled. "Flight departure in 18 minutes. Please take your seats." Janet Morrison planted herself firmly beside seat 2A, her 12 years of seniority evident in every practiced gesture. She'd handled situations like this before. Her badge caught the cabin light as she crossed her arms, creating a human barrier between Damon and his seat. "Look, I don't have time for games," Janet said, her voice rising just enough for surrounding passengers to hear. "We have a legitimate first-class passenger waiting, and you're holding up the entire flight." Brad Hutchinson, the white passenger in question, stepped forward with theatrical impatience. His expensive watch glinted as he gestured toward the seat. "Finally, someone is handling this properly. I have a connecting flight in Atlanta, and I can't miss it because of—" He paused, his meaning crystal clear. Damon remained seated, his briefcase balanced on his lap. Inside, merger documents worth millions waited, but he focused on the immediate crisis. He pulled out his Platinum Elite status card alongside the boarding pass, both clearly displaying his name and seat assignment. "Ma'am, I've been flying American Airlines for 8 years. Platinum member. This is definitely my seat." His voice carried the quiet authority of boardroom negotiations, but Janet dismissed it with a wave. "Anyone can fake these nowadays," she scoffed, barely glancing at the documents. "I see knockoff cards all the time. Security's gotten very sophisticated about catching fraudulent upgrades." Ashley Carter, a marketing executive in seat 2B, discreetly angled her phone. Her Instagram Live notification popped up. "Discrimination on AA Flight 447 right now." 3 viewers became 10, then 50. Comments started flooding in. The tension rippled through first class. Passengers in nearby rows turned to watch, some openly recording. The elderly couple in 3A whispered anxiously. A business traveler in 4C shook his head in disgust. "Just move along, buddy," Brad said, his tone suggesting he was doing everyone a favor. "Some of us have real business to conduct. I'm sure there's a perfectly good seat in the coach." Damon's phone buzzed against his thigh. "Board meeting tomorrow. Final vote on AA partnership." He ignored it, maintaining his composure despite the mounting humiliation. His leather briefcase held documents that could reshape American Airlines' future, but these people saw only skin color. "Sir, we have procedures," Janet continued, her voice growing more authoritative. "When there's a seating dispute, company policy requires passengers to cooperate with crew instructions. You can file a complaint later if you feel there's been an error." Ashley's live stream viewer count hit 847. Comments streamed past. "This is disgusting." Someone called the news. "I'm never flying AA again." She kept her phone steady, capturing every word, every dismissive gesture. A flight attendant from coach appeared. Marcus, a young black man who looked uncomfortable witnessing the scene. He approached Janet hesitantly. "Janet, his boarding pass clearly shows—" "Marcus, return to your section," Janet snapped. "I'm handling this." Marcus retreated, but his expression spoke volumes. Several passengers caught the exchange, recognizing the complex dynamics at play. Damon opened his briefcase slightly, retrieving a business card. The motion was subtle, but Janet noticed. "Sir, I'm going to need you to close that and prepare to relocate. We're not running a mobile office here." Ma'am, perhaps if you contact your supervisor. I don't need to contact anyone. I have full authority in this cabin. Janet's voice carried the smugness of someone wielding institutional power. Either you move voluntarily or we'll have security escort you off this aircraft. The threat hung in the air. Ashley's live stream now showed 1,200 viewers. The elderly woman in 3A gasped audibly. Even Brad shifted uncomfortably. He'd wanted the seat, but the situation was escalating beyond his comfort zone. Damon's phone buzzed again. This time, a text from his assistant. Washington Post asking about AA investment. Should I comment? He silenced the device, but the irony wasn't lost on him. Tomorrow's board meeting would determine American Airlines' diversity initiatives. Today, he was living the problem firsthand. Flight departure in 15 minutes, came another announcement. Janet seized the urgency. Sir, you're now officially delaying this flight. That's a federal offense. I'm calling ground security to remove you from the aircraft. She reached for her radio, the action designed to intimidate. Passengers murmured. Someone whispered, "This is crazy." Another voice, "Just let the man sit in his seat." But Janet had crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Her authority was now publicly challenged, witnessed by dozens of phones and Ashley's growing live stream audience. In her mind, backing down would undermine her credibility with passengers and crew alike. Damon remained perfectly still, his business training evident in every controlled breath. He'd negotiated billion-dollar deals with less drama than this flight attendant was creating over a seat assignment. But he also recognized the psychological trap. Any assertiveness would be labeled as aggressive or threatening. Brad cleared his throat. Look, maybe we should just... No, Janet cut him off. Company policy is clear. This passenger will comply or be removed. The countdown continued. 13 minutes to departure. Ashley's stream hit 1,847 viewers. And somewhere in his briefcase, Damon carried documents that would soon turn this entire encounter into American Airlines' most expensive customer service failure in corporate history. The stage was set. The witnesses were recording. The power dynamics seemed clear to everyone watching. They had no idea what was coming next. Flight departure in 12 minutes. Final boarding call for Flight 447. The announcement seemed to trigger something in Janet Morrison. She keyed her radio with aggressive precision, her voice carrying across the cabin as she summoned reinforcements. Ground control, this is Morrison on Flight 447. I need a supervisor and security to Gate B-17 immediately. We have an uncooperative passenger refusing to follow crew instructions. Ashley Carter's live stream exploded. Viewer count jumped from 1,847 to 3,200 in 30 seconds. Comments flooded the screen. Record everything. This is insane. Where's the manager? She adjusted her angle to capture the entire scene, her marketing instincts recognizing this moment's viral potential. Chief Flight Attendant Rosa Martinez appeared from the galley, her supervisor stripes immediately visible. 15 years with American Airlines had taught her to read situations quickly, but she was already primed by Janet's radio call. What's the issue here? Rosa's tone was professionally neutral, but her body language aligned with Janet from the start. Passenger in 2A refusing to relocate for a paying first-class customer, Janet explained, gesturing dismissively toward Damon. He's presenting fraudulent documentation and delaying our departure. Rosa glanced at Brad Hutchinson, who nodded eagerly. I paid full fare for first class. This is ridiculous. Damon handed Rosa his boarding pass and Platinum Elite card without a word. She examined them briefly, but Janet leaned in, whispering something that made Rosa's expression harden. Sir, these disputes happen frequently, Rosa said, returning the documents. Our policy is to resolve seating issues with minimal disruption. We have several seats available in premium economy. With respect, ma'am, I purchased this specific seat, Damon interrupted quietly. I have a confirmed reservation. Ashley's phone captured every nuance. Her live stream audience had grown to 4,800 viewers, with shares multiplying across social platforms. The hashtag, flight discrimination, was gaining momentum organically. Ground Supervisor Mike Stevens jogged down the jet bridge, slightly out of breath. A 20-year airport veteran, he'd handled countless passenger disputes, but Janet's radio call had suggested something more serious. "Evening, folks. What seems to be the problem?" Before Damon could respond, Janet launched into her narrative. Fraudulent documentation, refusing crew instructions, disrupting other passengers, potentially missed departure window. Mike's expression shifted as he absorbed Janet's characterization. He glanced at Damon, then at the growing crowd of recording passengers, making quick calculations about liability and schedule disruption. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step off the aircraft so we can resolve this matter properly," Mike said, his tone suggesting non-negotiation. The cabin erupted in murmurs. Several passengers voiced objections. "This is discrimination. Let him stay in his seat. Check his documents properly." But other voices emerged, too. "Just move him so we can leave. I have a connection to make. Security should handle this." The plane divided into vocal camps, with Damon at the center of a brewing social media storm. Ashley's stream showed viewers from 12 countries now, the story spreading beyond American borders. Officer Patricia Williams entered the aircraft, her security uniform immediately commanding attention. A 10-year airport veteran and the only black person in the official response team, she found herself in an impossible position. "Evening, everyone," Patricia said carefully. She'd watched Ashley's live stream during her walk to the gate, understanding the optics before entering. "Can someone explain the situation?" Rosa stepped forward. "The passenger refuses to comply with crew instructions. We need him removed so we can maintain our departure schedule." Patricia approached Damon, her expression neutral, but her eyes communicating something different. "Sir, can I see your documentation?" Damon handed over his materials again. Patricia examined them thoroughly. The boarding pass clearly showed seat 2A. The elite status was legitimate. Even the seat selection timestamp proved everything was in order. "These documents appear valid," Patricia said slowly. "But the airline crew has discretionary authority over seating arrangements," Mike interjected. "Federal aviation regulations support crew decisions in these matters." Patricia nodded reluctantly. She understood the legal framework, but she also recognized racial profiling when she saw it. Her job required following procedures, even when those procedures enabled discrimination. "Departure in 8 minutes," came the announcement. "Gate agents preparing to close the boarding door." The time pressure became unbearable. Rosa made the decision that would cost American Airlines millions. "Sir, we're prepared to have you removed from this flight and banned from future American Airlines travel if you don't comply immediately." Damon stood slowly, his movements deliberate and controlled. Every passenger watched, every phone recorded, every social media feed captured this moment. He reached for his briefcase, and Janet smirked with satisfaction. "Should have moved when I asked nicely," she said, just loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. Ashley's live stream hit 12,400 viewers. Comments poured in from journalists, civil rights organizations, and airline industry insiders. Someone had identified the flight number and was tracking it in real time. Another viewer had already posted American Airlines' customer service number. Damon's phone vibrated with incoming calls. His assistant, his lawyer, board members who'd seen the live stream. He ignored them all, focusing instead on the briefcase in his hands. Brad Hutchinson settled into seat 2A with theatrical relief, immediately requesting champagne from a passing flight attendant. His satisfaction was visible to everyone, including Ashley's cameras. "Finally," Brad muttered. "Some people just need to learn their place." The comment hit Ashley's live stream like a bomb. Viewer outrage exploded in the chat. Screenshots flew across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. #flight discrimination merged with #learn your place, creating a social media firestorm. Patricia Williams stepped closer to Damon, her voice low. "Sir, please just cooperate. I know this isn't right, but fighting it here won't help anyone." Damon looked at her with something resembling sympathy. Officer Williams, you're absolutely correct. Fighting this here won't help anyone. His words carried strange emphasis, as if he knew something she didn't. Patricia frowned, sensing undercurrents she couldn't identify. Rosa keyed her radio. Ground control, passenger is complying. We'll need paperwork for the flight ban documentation. Copy that. Flight 447 cleared for departure in 6 minutes. The assembled crew, Janet, Rosa, Mike, stood in a semicircle around Damon, their authority apparently vindicated. They'd successfully removed an uncooperative passenger and maintained their departure schedule. Ashley's phone showed 15,600 viewers now, with major news outlets beginning to pick up the story. Her hands shook slightly as she realized she was documenting something that would change everything for everyone involved. Damon reached into his briefcase and withdrew a single document. Then he pulled out 2 business cards, holding them with the same care other people reserved for loaded weapons. The smug expressions around him were about to become something else entirely. Before I leave, Damon said quietly, I think there are some people you should call. Damon Washington extended the first business card to Rosa Martinez with the same deliberate precision he used in billion-dollar negotiations. The embossed lettering caught the cabin light. Damon Washington, Chief Executive Officer, Washington Capital Partners. Rosa's eyes moved from the card to Damon's face, then back to the card. Her expression shifted like tectonic plates. Confusion, recognition, then dawning horror. Please call your district manager immediately, Damon said, his voice carrying a new quality that made everyone lean forward. Tell Carmen Rodriguez that Washington Capital Partners needs to discuss our American Airlines investment. The words hung in the air like smoke from an explosion. Janet Morrison's smug expression froze mid-formation. Mike Stevens stepped closer, squinting at the business card as if it might be written in a foreign language. Washington Capital Partners, Rosa whispered, the name triggering corporate memory. Her face drained of color as the implications cascaded through her mind. She'd seen that name on executive memos, board meeting minutes, quarterly reports. This wasn't just any investment firm. Damon handed her the second card. This one bore the American Airlines logo alongside legal text. Preferred stock certificate, Series A voting rights, 23.7% ownership interest. Ashley Carter's live stream viewer count exploded past 18,000. Comments flooded the screen faster than human eyes could read. Oh my God! Plot twist! He owns the airline! This is insane! Major news outlets started embedding the stream on their websites in real time. We acquired our position last month, Damon continued, his tone remaining conversational despite the bombshell. The largest private investment in American Airlines history. $847 million in preferred stock with voting rights. Tomorrow's board meeting was scheduled to finalize our diversity initiative proposal. Janet Morrison's hand flew to her throat. The champagne glass in Brad Hutchinson's hand trembled as he processed what he was hearing. Officer Patricia Williams stepped back instinctively, recognizing a seismic shift in power dynamics that her security training had never covered. Mr. Washington, Rosa stammered, I had no idea. That was exactly the point, Damon replied, his executive presence now unmistakable. This flight was specifically chosen to observe frontline customer service practices. What you've witnessed tonight is precisely why our investment includes mandatory bias training requirements and comprehensive diversity audits. Mike Stevens fumbled for his radio. Ground control, we need District Manager Rodriguez on board immediately. Code Priority Alpha. This is not a drill. The aircraft fell into stunned silence. Passengers who'd been recording the discrimination now found themselves documenting corporate history. Ashley's phone captured every facial expression, every moment of realization, every second of the most expensive customer service failure in aviation history. The elderly couple in row 3A exchanged glances of disbelief. The businessman in 4C dropped his laptop, focusing entirely on the unfolding drama. Even Marcus, the coach flight attendant, had crept forward to witness the revelation, his earlier discomfort now replaced by vindication. Damon opened his briefcase fully for the first time, revealing merger documents, legal briefs, and financial projections. The papers that Janet had dismissed as fraudulent business materials were actually contracts worth nearly $1 billion. These documents detail our comprehensive diversity audit, Damon explained, lifting a thick folder marked Confidential Board Review. Real-world testing was Phase 1. Ms. Morrison and Mr. Stevens just provided exceptional data for our compliance review. Janet's legs seemed to give way slightly. She gripped the nearest seat back for support, her 12 years of seniority suddenly feeling like 12 years of liability. Her mind raced through every interaction with minority passengers, wondering which ones might have been secretly recorded or reported. The Federal Aviation Administration received our testing protocol 3 weeks ago, Damon continued, producing another document stamped with official seals. Tonight's incident was officially sanctioned as a civil rights compliance audit. Your actions are now part of the federal record. Brad Hutchinson finally found his voice. I didn't know. This is a misunderstanding. I never meant to. No misunderstanding, Mr. Hutchinson, Damon said calmly, his boardroom authority cutting through the man's stammering. You validated discrimination against a fellow passenger. That makes you complicit in a federal civil rights violation. Your behavior is also being documented for our passenger conduct database and potential legal proceedings. Ashley's live stream hit 25,000 viewers, with the number climbing exponentially. News organizations worldwide were picking up the story. The hashtag #flight discrimination had merged with hashtag corporate justice and hashtag quiet power, creating a social media phenomenon that marketing executives would study for years. A passenger in row 5 shouted, "This is better than Netflix." Another voice called out, "Sir, you're my hero." The cabin atmosphere shifted from tension to electricity as passengers realized they were witnessing David defeating Goliath in real time. Our legal team includes former Justice Department civil rights attorneys, Damon continued, pulling out his phone to show a contact list. They're currently monitoring this live stream and preparing preliminary injunction paperwork. One phone call can suspend American Airlines federal operating licenses pending investigation. Patricia Williams approached carefully, her security training warring with her recognition of the situation's complexity. "Mr. Washington, sir, I apologize for—" "Officer Williams, you conducted yourself professionally throughout this incident," Damon interrupted. "Your position was impossible, and you handled it with dignity. That will be noted in our report to Airport Security Administration." The relief on Patricia's face was visible. Unlike the airline employees, she'd been caught between competing authorities rather than creating the problem herself. Her body language visibly relaxed for the first time since entering the aircraft. Rosa's radio crackled. "District Manager Rodriguez en route. ETA 2 minutes. Legal department has been notified." 2 minutes, Damon repeated thoughtfully. That should be sufficient time to review the immediate consequences of tonight's events. May. He pulled out his phone, opening an app that displayed real-time American Airlines stock prices. Our ownership position gives us significant influence over share valuation. Tonight's incident, combined with social media documentation, represents what financial analysts call material reputation risk. The numbers on his screen showed after-hours trading activity. News of the incident was already affecting investor confidence. Social media sentiment analysis showed overwhelmingly negative responses to #American Airlines hashtags. Stock price has dropped $2.30 per share in the last 15 minutes, Damon observed, his voice carrying the weight of financial expertise. With 1.8 billion shares outstanding, that represents a market cap reduction of approximately $4.1 billion, all from one customer service interaction. Janet Morrison's face went ashen. She'd never considered that her actions could affect corporate valuation or shareholder value. Her training had focused on passenger compliance, not financial consequences or corporate liability. The ripple effects extend beyond stock price, Damon continued, consulting another app. Our institutional investor network includes BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. They're all monitoring tonight's events for environmental, social, and governance compliance violations. He showed Rosa his phone screen displaying real-time social media analytics. Twitter sentiment toward American Airlines has dropped 73% in the past 20 minutes. Instagram engagement is 89% negative. TikTok videos using flight discrimination has already reached 2.4 million views. The Federal Aviation Administration requires detailed incident reports for discrimination complaints, Damon continued, his corporate lawyer background evident in every precisely chosen word. Our legal team will ensure this evening receives thorough documentation and federal review. He produced his phone again, showing a contact list that included civil rights attorneys, federal regulators, and congressional staff members. 23 people are currently monitoring Ashley's live stream from our offices. This incident is being analyzed for potential class action implications. Janet Morrison finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper.
Sir, there's been a terrible mistake.
I was just following standard procedures. Show me the standard procedure that authorizes racial profiling, Damon interrupted. Point to the training manual that says black passengers should be assumed fraudulent until proven otherwise. The challenge hung unanswered. Janet's mouth opened and closed without sound, her 12 years of experience suddenly worthless against this level of corporate accountability. Mike Stevens attempted damage control. Mr. Washington, surely we can resolve this matter internally through proper channels. Mr. Stevens, this matter became external the moment you threatened to ban me from future flights. Ashley's live stream has documented everything for regulatory review and potential congressional hearings. Ashley's viewer count had reached 35,000, with international news outlets beginning live coverage. The story was beyond containment now, spreading through news networks, social media, and aviation industry channels like wildfire. Damon retrieved another document from his briefcase. Federal Aviation Regulation Part 250 addresses involuntary removal of passengers. None of the legal criteria were met tonight. This was discrimination, pure and simple. He held up a legal brief thick enough to stop bullets. Our preliminary injunction paperwork is already prepared. Washington Capital Partners has the legal resources to tie American Airlines in federal court for years. The threat wasn't empty corporate posturing. Washington Capital Partners employed more attorneys than some government agencies. Their legal resources could tie American Airlines in regulatory knots for decades. Brad Hutchinson stood abruptly from seat 2A, finally understanding his precarious position. I should probably return to my original seat. You should probably contact your employer's legal department, Damon suggested. Your comments are recorded on multiple platforms. Learn Your Place will likely become Exhibit A in discrimination training seminars nationwide. The cabin door opened, and Carmen Rodriguez entered with the urgency of someone whose career was in freefall. 23 years with American Airlines had prepared her for many crises, but not this one. Mr. Washington, she said immediately, bypassing all subordinates. I deeply apologize for this unprecedented situation. Ms. Rodriguez, apologies don't address systemic problems, Damon replied. Your company has 24 hours to present a comprehensive action plan addressing the discrimination patterns documented tonight. He handed her a final business card. Our law firm specializes in corporate compliance and civil rights litigation. They'll be expecting your call within the hour. The live stream audience watched in fascination as one of America's largest airlines scrambled to contain damage from a single customer service interaction. The story had everything: corporate drama, social justice, hidden power, and real-time consequences. Passengers throughout the cabin began applauding spontaneously. The sound built from scattered claps to thunderous ovation. Ashley's dying phone captured the moment when ordinary travelers celebrated extraordinary justice. Damon stood slowly, his bearing transformed from victim to executive. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our impromptu case study in customer service excellence. Ms. Rodriguez, shall we discuss the immediate changes your company will implement? Janet Morrison, Mike Stevens, and Brad Hutchinson stood frozen like statues in a museum exhibit. Discrimination in the digital age. Their faces would soon become cautionary tales in corporate training programs worldwide. Carmen Rodriguez stepped into the aircraft cabin like a firefighter entering a burning building. Her 23 years with American Airlines had taught her to assess corporate damage quickly, but the scene before her defied all training protocols. "Mr. Washington," she began, her voice carefully modulating, "I want to personally assure you that American Airlines takes these matters extremely seriously." Damon remained seated, his briefcase open like a war room command center. Financial documents, legal briefs, and regulatory filings spread across his tray table in organized precision. "Ms. Rodriguez, serious situations require serious solutions. Let's discuss the metrics." He lifted a tablet displaying real-time data analytics. Washington Capital Partners tracks customer satisfaction scores across all portfolio companies. American Airlines currently ranks 73% in passenger experience, the lowest in our transportation sector. Carmen's face tightened. Those numbers weren't public knowledge, but Damon's investment position granted access to internal performance data that even most executives never saw. "Our quarterly analysis shows 847 discrimination complaints filed against American Airlines in the past 12 months, Damon continued, consulting another document. "That's a 34% increase from the previous year, with 67% involving passengers of color." Ashley's live stream had reached 42,000 viewers, but now major news networks were providing live coverage. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News had all interrupted regular programming for breaking news coverage of the American Airlines discrimination incident. Janet Morrison stood frozen near the galley, her career imploding in real time. Mike Stevens clutched his radio like a lifeline, but no amount of ground control could save him from this corporate meltdown. "The financial implications extend beyond stock price volatility," Damon explained, pulling up another screen. "Our environmental, social, and governance assessment directly influences our $847 million investment strategy. Tonight's incident represents a material breach of our partnership agreement." Carmen pulled out her own tablet, frantically consulting corporate crisis management protocols. "Mr. Washington, what immediate actions would demonstrate our commitment to addressing these concerns?" "Accountability comes first," Damon replied. "Ms. Morrison will be immediately suspended pending a full investigation. Mr. Stevens will undergo comprehensive bias training before returning to passenger-facing duties." He gestured toward the live-stream documentation. "Ashley Carter's video provides unambiguous evidence of discriminatory conduct. Federal Aviation Administration regulations require immediate reporting of civil rights violations." Brad Hutchinson, still trembling in seat 2A, finally found the courage to speak. "Mr. Washington, I sincerely apologize for my behavior. I had no right to—" "Mr. Hutchinson, your apology is noted but insufficient," Damon interrupted. "American Airlines will implement a passenger conduct database tracking discriminatory behavior. Your actions tonight qualify for inclusion." The threat wasn't empty. Airlines maintained sophisticated databases tracking passenger behavior, and inclusion could affect future travel privileges across multiple carriers. "Our legal department has identified 17 specific Federal Aviation Administration violations from tonight's incident," Damon continued, consulting a legal brief. "Each violation carries potential fines ranging from $25,000 to $400,000 per occurrence." Carmen's hands shook slightly as she calculated the potential financial exposure. 7-figure fines could devastate quarterly earnings and trigger regulatory scrutiny across the entire operation. "The Department of Transportation has granted our firm special investigation authority," Damon added, producing an official document with federal seals. "This incident will be documented as part of our comprehensive civil rights compliance audit." He opened his phone to reveal a conference call with 6 participants. "Our legal team is currently preparing preliminary injunction paperwork. We can suspend American Airlines federal operating certificates pending investigation." The cabin fell silent except for the hum of engines and the soft murmur of Ashley's live stream commentary. Passengers in nearby rows leaned forward, recognizing they were witnessing corporate history unfold. However, Damon continued, his tone suggesting negotiation rather than destruction, Washington Capital Partners believes in rehabilitation over punishment. We're prepared to work with American Airlines on comprehensive reform. Carmen seized the opening. What specific changes would satisfy your compliance requirements? Damon retrieved a thick document marked Confidential Board Proposal. The Washington Protocol, a 5-point diversity action plan developed by our civil rights attorneys and organizational psychologists. He outlined the requirements with boardroom precision. Point 1. Immediate implementation of bias recognition training for all customer-facing employees. 40 hours mandatory with annual recertification. Cost, approximately $23 million annually. Point 2. Real-time discrimination monitoring system using artificial intelligence to analyze passenger interactions. Warning systems alert supervisors to potential bias incidents. Development cost, $67 million. Ongoing maintenance, $12 million yearly. Point 3. Independent civil rights ombudsman position reporting directly to the CEO. This person investigates discrimination complaints and has authority to terminate employees for violations. Annual budget, $8 million including staff and operations. Point 4. Quarterly diversity audits by third-party civil rights organizations. Results published publicly and shared with federal regulators. Cost, $5 million per quarter. Point 5. $50 million Diversity Scholarship Fund supporting aviation careers for underrepresented communities. This creates pipeline diversity while demonstrating genuine commitment to change. Carmen's tablet showed the financial implications. $165 million in first-year costs, with $70 million annually thereafter. The numbers were staggering, but the alternative, regulatory shutdown and investor flight, would cost billions. Our timeline is non-negotiable, Damon continued. American Airlines has 24 hours to accept these terms or face immediate divestiture of our $847 million position. He showed his phone screen displaying pre-market trading data. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street have all contacted us tonight. They're prepared to follow our lead if we divest. Combined, that represents $2.3 billion in institutional investment. The threat was carefully calculated. Losing that much institutional support would trigger a death spiral in share price and credit ratings that could take years to recover from. The broader implications extend beyond American Airlines, Damon explained. Our investor network includes pension funds representing 12 million workers. They're watching tonight's response as a test case for corporate accountability. Janet Morrison finally spoke, her voice cracking with desperation.
Mr. Washington, I have a family. I've worked here for 12 years.
Please don't let one mistake destroy my career. Damon turned to face her directly. Ms. Morrison, your mistake was treating me like a criminal because of my skin color. That wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It was systematic bias that's affected hundreds of passengers. He consulted another document. Our investigation found 23 prior complaints against you involving passenger profiling. This wasn't your first offense. It was simply the first time you were held accountable. The number hit the cabin like a physical blow. 23 complaints meant years of discriminatory behavior, a pattern of bias that management had ignored until tonight. Mike Stevens attempted one final defense. Mr. Washington, we were following established protocols for passenger disputes. Show me the protocol authorizing racial profiling, Damon challenged. Produce the training manual that says black passengers should be treated as suspected criminals. Stevens opened his mouth, then closed it without speaking. No such protocol existed, and everyone knew it. Carmen checked her watch, 11:47 p.m.
Mr. Washington, I need to conference with our executive team and legal department. Can we schedule a formal meeting tomorrow morning?
The board meeting is at 9 a.m., Damon replied. Your response determines whether Washington Capital Partners increases our investment or divests entirely. He began packing his briefcase with methodical precision. Ms. Rodriguez, American Airlines just received the most expensive customer service lesson in aviation history. The question is whether you'll learn from it. Ashley's live stream had reached 67,000 viewers, with clips spreading across every social media platform. The story was already being covered by international news outlets, making this a global public relations crisis. The civil rights movement didn't end in the 1960s, Damon said quietly. It evolved into boardrooms and stock portfolios. Tonight, you learned that economic power can enforce social justice more effectively than protests or litigation. He stood slowly, his executive presence now undeniable. Ladies and gentlemen, discrimination is expensive. American Airlines is about to discover exactly how expensive. The cabin erupted in spontaneous applause again, louder than before. Passengers who'd witnessed discrimination transform into accountability cheered for justice served at 35,000 feet. Janet Morrison, Mike Stevens, and Brad Hutchinson would never forget the night they learned that quiet power speaks louder than raised voices. 24 hours later, American Airlines CEO Robert Carter stood before an emergency board meeting, his prepared statement trembling in his hands. The Washington Capital Partners conference room buzzed with tension as Damon Washington reviewed the airline's proposed response. "Mr. Washington," Carter began, "American Airlines accepts full responsibility for last night's incident. We're prepared to implement immediate changes." The live stream fallout had been devastating. Ashley Carter's video reached 2.8 million views across platforms. Flight discrimination dominated trending topics globally. Stock price dropped 11% in overnight trading, erasing $1.2 billion in market value. "Janet Morrison has been terminated effective immediately," Carter announced. "Our investigation revealed a pattern of discriminatory behavior spanning 5 years, with 27 documented complaints we failed to address properly." Damon nodded approvingly. "And Mr. Stevens?" "Suspended without pay for 30 days, mandatory completion of 80-hour bias training program, and permanent reassignment to non-passenger duties. His supervisory privileges have been revoked." The swift action reflected corporate panic. American Airlines' legal department had worked through the night, calculating exposure from potential class action lawsuits and federal investigations. "The Washington Protocol has been approved by our board of directors," Carter continued. "Implementation begins today with a $165 million budget allocation for the first year." Damon consulted his tablet. "Explain the timeline specifics." "Bias training rollout starts next Monday across all hubs. 34,000 employees will complete certification within 90 days. The AI monitoring system goes live in 6 months, with beta testing beginning immediately at JFK, LAX, and DFW. Carmen Rodriguez entered with implementation updates. "The Civil Rights Ombudsman position has been posted. We're interviewing former Department of Justice attorneys and NAACP executives for the role. Quarterly diversity audits will be conducted by the Southern Poverty Law Center," Carter added. "Results published on our website and submitted to the Department of Transportation." The $50 million scholarship fund had already generated positive media coverage, with applications opening for aviation programs at historically black colleges and universities. Ashley Carter's role in documenting the incident earned her recognition beyond viral fame. CNN offered her a correspondent position covering civil rights issues. Her live stream had become a case study in citizen journalism's power to enforce corporate accountability. Brad Hutchinson's employer terminated his consulting contract, Damon noted, consulting his phone. His comments during the incident violated their diversity and inclusion policies. The passenger conduct database was already operational. Hutchinson's profile included warnings about discriminatory behavior, potentially affecting his ability to travel on multiple airlines. Officer Patricia Williams received commendation from Airport Security Administration for her professionalism during the crisis. Her careful handling of an impossible situation became training material for security personnel nationwide. "The ripple effects extend beyond American Airlines," Damon observed. Delta, United, and Southwest have all announced enhanced bias training programs. The industry is taking notice. Federal Aviation Administration Administrator Sarah Johnson issued new guidance requiring airlines to report discrimination incidents within 24 hours. Congressional hearings were scheduled to examine systemic bias in commercial aviation. Our investor confidence has stabilized, Carter reported carefully. BlackRock and Vanguard confirmed continued support following your announcement of increased investment rather than divestiture. Washington Capital Partners had surprised the market by doubling their American Airlines position, demonstrating faith in the company's reform efforts. The $400 million additional investment sent stock prices soaring, recovering all losses from the initial incident. Real change requires ongoing accountability, Damon emphasized. Our quarterly compliance reviews will monitor progress on every metric. The transformation wasn't just cosmetic. American Airlines restructured their entire customer service philosophy around dignity and respect. Employee evaluations now included bias assessment scores. Promotion requirements included demonstrated cultural competency. 6 months from today, we'll evaluate the program's effectiveness, Damon announced. Success means continued partnership. Failure means immediate divestiture and public documentation of shortcomings. The threat remained real. Washington Capital Partners' influence extended throughout the investment community. Their approval or condemnation could make or break corporate reputations. Marcus, the coach flight attendant who'd witnessed Janet's discrimination, was promoted to diversity training coordinator. His insider perspective on discriminatory practices made him invaluable for identifying problem areas. This incident demonstrates that economic leverage creates faster change than legal action, Damon reflected. Corporate boardrooms respond to financial pressure more quickly than courtrooms. The Washington Protocol became industry standard within 18 months. Other investment firms adopted similar ESG enforcement strategies, using economic power to drive social progress. American Airlines will become the industry leader in inclusive customer service, Carter pledged. Last night's failure becomes tomorrow's foundation for excellence. Damon closed his briefcase, satisfied with the comprehensive response. Ms. Rodriguez, ensure that every employee understands tonight's lesson. Discrimination is expensive, but accountability is profitable. The quiet revolution had succeeded. Power wielded responsibly created lasting change that no amount of protesting could have achieved. Economic justice had proven more effective than legal justice. American Airlines learned that treating customers with dignity wasn't just morally right. It was financially essential. 6 months after Flight 447, American Airlines reported the highest customer satisfaction scores in company history. The Washington Protocol had transformed not just policies, but corporate culture itself. Damon Washington stood before the Aviation Diversity Summit, addressing industry leaders from around the world. His quiet victory had inspired a movement that extended far beyond airlines. Dignity isn't negotiable, he told the audience. When we demanded accountability, we created lasting change that protects every traveler who follows. The numbers told the story. Discrimination complaints across participating airlines dropped 47% industry-wide. Minority business travel increased 31% on carriers implementing bias training programs. The economic impact of inclusion had become undeniable. Ashley Carter's documentary 35,000 Feet to Justice premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, winning the Audience Award for Best Documentary Feature. Her citizen journalism had evolved into a platform for exposing systemic inequality across industries. One phone recording changed everything, Ashley reflected in interviews. It proves that ordinary people can hold extraordinary power accountable when they document truth. The Equality in Transit Foundation, established with Damon's leadership, had awarded $12 million in aviation scholarships to underrepresented students. 43 recipients were now enrolled in pilot training programs at historically black colleges. Corporate America took notice. The Washington model spread to the hospitality, retail, and healthcare sectors. Investment firms adopted ESG enforcement strategies, using economic leverage to drive social progress across industries. Janet Morrison's termination became a cautionary tale in business schools nationwide. Her discriminatory actions cost American Airlines $165 million in immediate reforms, plus incalculable reputation damage that took years to repair. Economic consequences speak louder than moral arguments, Damon observed during a Harvard Business School lecture. When discrimination becomes expensive, corporations change quickly. The Federal Department of Transportation adopted the Washington Protocol as recommended guidelines for all commercial airlines. Bias training, monitoring systems, and accountability measures became industry requirements rather than voluntary initiatives. These real-life stories demonstrate that quiet power can overcome systemic injustice more effectively than confrontation. Damon's strategic response created touching stories of transformation that continue inspiring change today. Black stories like this remind us that progress happens when preparation meets opportunity. Life stories of dignity defended through economic leverage prove that justice takes many forms. Brad Hutchinson eventually issued a public apology, participating in diversity training seminars, where he shared his experience as a cautionary tale. His willingness to acknowledge complicity in discrimination became part of his rehabilitation. Officer Patricia Williams was promoted to Airport Security Training Director, developing protocols that balance authority with respect for passenger dignity. The ripple effects continue today. Every time a passenger receives respectful treatment regardless of race, Flight 447's legacy lives on. Every airline employee who chooses inclusion over bias honors the courage of those who demanded change. Real stories have real power, Damon concluded his summit address. When we document discrimination and demand accountability, we create the change we want to see. If you've experienced discrimination while traveling, share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters. Your experience creates change. These touching stories of quiet power overcoming bias need to be heard. Subscribe to Black Soul Stories for more accounts of dignity defended and justice served. Together we document truth and demand the respect we deserve.